Zelensky predicts that despite the cancellation of his U.S. Senate address, Kyiv will defeat Putin's army. Following the unexpected cancellation of his address to the U.S. Senate, President Volodymyr Zelensky assured Ukrainians on Wednesday that, against all odds, Kyiv would overcome Russia and achieve a just peace on what Ukraine celebrates as Armed Forces Day. Zelensky made his defiant statement in an unusual early morning video in which he walked through Kyiv to pay his respects to fallen soldiers. He walked from his office down the central Prushevskoho street towards central Kyiv's wall of remembrance while filming himself on a mobile phone. "It has been difficult, but we have persevered," Zelensky admitted. "Things aren't easy right now, but we're taking action. In spite of everything, we will succeed. To our homeland, to our citizens. That we may be at peace. A just and peaceful conclusion. A world without conflict." Despite everything, this comes at a time when Congress has ignored Kyiv's demands for multi-billion-dollar military aid, effectively cutting off Ukraine's funding. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said that had the president of Ukraine addressed the Senate, he would have asked for more funding for the conflict in his home country. Trip to the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia begins with Putin. As his invasion of Ukraine continues, Russian President Vladimir Putin is hoping to gain support in the Middle East from two major oil producers who are allied to the U.S. He is currently on a trip to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. While the United Nations COP28 climate talks are underway, Mr. Putin touched down in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the Emirates Federation of Seven Sheikdoms. He is currently facing an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court related to the conflict in Ukraine. And this trip was his first visit to the region since before the coronavirus pandemic and war, because neither Saudi Arabia nor the United Arab Emirates has signed the ICC founding treaty. Neither country is required to hold Mr. Putin in connection with the warrant that holds him individually accountable for the kidnappings of Ukrainian children during his war with the country. Putin did not attend the South African summit because he was afraid he would be arrested upon his arrival. Mr. Putin was greeted by Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the UAE's foreign minister, who was beaming as he stepped off his presidential plane upon his arrival at the Qasr Al Watan Palace in Abu Dhabi to meet with the ruler. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the UAE military acrobatic team flown in formation, their smoke trailing in the colors of the Russian flag, red, white, and blue. Savoring his reunion with Mr. Putin, Sheikh Mohammed greeted him with an expression of happiness as they sat down in the palace. Nepalese authorities detained 10 alleged youths who were smuggled into Ukraine to fight for the Russian army. 10 individuals were apprehended by the Nepalese police on suspicion of facilitating the illegal recruitment of young, jobless men to the Russian army in response to Moscow's continuing conflict with Ukraine. According to the police in Kathmandu, these individuals were taking as much as $9,000, £7,143, each to sponsor their travel to Russia on a tourist visa so that they could be enlisted in the Russian military's Ukrainian conflict. The arrest is a ploy by the police to dissuade young, defenseless men from serving in the military. Since February 2022, when at least 6 Nepalese soldiers were killed serving in the Russian military in Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, the country has been forced to strengthen its diplomatic efforts. Ukrainian forces apprehended a single soldier from Nepal, smuggling Gurkhas to fight for Russia in Ukraine leads Nepal police to arrest 10 individuals. Nepalese authorities have accused a human trafficking ring of charging as much as £7,143 to each victim in order to sponsor their travel to Russia on a tourist visa and subsequently enlist them in the Russian military. British authorities issue a warning to Russia over its efforts to evade sanctions. Russia is attempting to acquire sanctioned goods through intermediary countries, according to the UK's National Crime Agency, which has warned financial institutions and members of the UK regulated sector. Russian purchases of goods, including military supplies, have been severely limited by sanctions levied against the country due to its invasion of Ukraine, according to the NCA. But to get around these controls, Russia is utilizing alternative supply routes and complicated supply chains to get their hands on sanctioned products. Britain has sanctioned over 1,600 individuals and approximately 250 entities since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Zelensky pays respect to fallen soldiers while saying that Kyiv will win against all odds. On Wednesday, with the fate of critical U.S. military and financial aid hanging in the balance, President Volodymyr Zelensky assured Ukrainians that Kyiv would triumph over Russia and achieve a just peace against all odds. On what Ukraine celebrates as Armed Forces Day, Zelensky made his defiant statement in an unusual early morning video in which he walked through Kyiv to pay his respects to fallen soldiers. He walked from his office down the central Frashevskoho street towards central Kyiv's Wall of Remembrance while filming himself on a mobile phone. It has been difficult, but we have persevered, Zelensky admitted. Things aren't easy right now, but we're taking action. In spite of everything, we will succeed. To our homeland, to our citizens. That we may be at peace. A just and peaceful conclusion. A world without conflict. Despite everything, his comments seem to be a reaction to the mounting doubt about the fate of a $60 billion aid package that has been stalled in U.S. Congress for weeks, amid congressional gridlock over Republican demands to condition the aid on a reform of U.S. immigration and border policies. Zelensky on Tuesday scrapped plans to meet with American lawmakers to make a direct appeal for the funding. Polish truckers' standoff remains strong, arms supplied by Ukrainian volunteers. Several weeks of delays to vital supplies of drones, electronics, and pickup trucks have been inflicted upon charities and NGOs that provide military aid to the Ukrainian armed forces. This is all because of border protests by Polish truckers, according to 3 sources in the industry who spoke to Reuters. The protests, which started on November 6, have caused a backlog of thousands of trucks carrying commercial goods at the Polish-Ukrainian border crossings for weeks. Slovak hauliers started a comparable blockade on December 1. According to the demonstrators, Ukrainian truck drivers are lowering their prices and should not be able to enter the European Union without a permit. According to Kyiv, a truck permit system is not feasible due to the high volume of traffic during wartime. Despite protesters' claims to be allowing humanitarian and military aid through, the blockade prevents many resources needed by the Ukrainian armed forces from reaching their destinations, as they are purchased by civilian organizations and transported on commercial trucks, according to Taras Chmut, the leader of Come Back Alive, the biggest military aid charity in Ukraine. Hundreds of drones that his organization had acquired, along with dozens of night vision systems and pickup trucks, had been stranded at the border for weeks. The fact that they are dependent on projects, schedules, and due dates makes this a bad situation. He informed Reuters that things are moving forward, but at a slower pace than previously. Affluent Russians have been sanctioned by the West. However, will that truly aid Ukraine while punishing Putin? As the bells of a neighboring medieval church ring out, Igor Makarov, a billionaire living under Western sanctions, sits on a Verona terrace, sipping coffee and describing his life. He has halted plans to expand his energy companies and has frozen most of the fortune he made doing business in Russia and the former USSR. Since his yacht and 2 private planes were impounded, he boarded a commercial flight from Cyprus to Italy on EasyJet, a budget airline. What exactly are these sanctions meant to signify to me? In what ways do they succeed? In a rare interview, Makarov said, they don't help Ukraine, while blinking in the Italian sunshine.